Good evening. I'm Dr. Laurence Sherr, KSU Professor of Music, Composer in Residence, and the composer of Flame Language, the next work on the program. An important focus of my work as a composer, lecturer, researcher, and educator is Holocaust remembrance through music. Because this Wednesday, January the 27th, is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, the annual marking of the 1945 liberation of Auschwitz, I would like to share some perspectives on the Nelly Sachs poem in Flame Language. But first, I would like to express my deep appreciation to all of those who have contributed to make my work possible, especially SNCF America. I also want to thank Charae Krueger and the faculty colleagues performing tonight. On a universal level, the poem I chose for Flame Language addresses the pain and suffering of losing a loved one. But Sachs' autobiographical references led me to more closely examine her life, especially as it was impacted by the Holocaust. In 1940, after being summoned by the Nazis, she and her mother barely escaped to the neutral country of Sweden. Throughout the war, they lived in poverty in a one-room apartment. In the winter of 1943-44, the concentration camp death of her love from youth became the impetus for her poetry cycle, Prayers for the Dead Bridegroom. Nelly Sachs described how these poems were created in the space of 3 nights when she lay awake, torn by pain. She envisioned the poetry, but didn't risk turning on the light to avoid waking up her mother. She repeated what she saw in the air, where, quote, the night was like an open wound. In the morning, she wrote what she could remember. It was the beginning of her mature style. Historians don't know if Nelly Sachs had yet learned about the crematoriums as she composed the words, speaks, quakes with the air of flame language. But she later dramatically referred to them in her work, as you can see by these titles. Appearing in many of Nelly Sachs' works are references to the 4 basic elements of nature from the Greek philosopher Empedocles. This may be her only poem that includes a direct use of the word elements as well as mentioning the 4 elements themselves. Spiritual imagery stems from her reading of Jewish mystical works such as the Kabbalah and Zohar, and writings by Jewish and Christian mystics. For example, lighting a candle for a deceased loved one, and concepts of universal life are common in multiple spiritual traditions. In Nelly Sachs' poetry, personal references are often interlaced with universal ones. One example is the 3rd line of this poem, where the water that drops from the eye can be understood as humanity's collective expression of grief for genocide. During and after the war, Nelly Sachs continued to witness the Holocaust in her poetry. In 1966, she was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. I find great inspiration in Nelly Sachs' poetic evocations, not only of the grief of the Holocaust and the pain of universal suffering, but also in her uplifting hope for redemption and healing. Charae Krueger and the Flame Language performers will now join us for the performance. Thank you.
If I only